Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is Renegade. We are here on Renegade, obviously after Ignite Season 3, Episode 9. Now, today we are going to have our special guest to Renegade, and that is ATW the Warrior, or your MOF champion. So let's give it up to him now. Squa. Fresh off Ignite with the MOF Gold. Alright, Squa. It's been a couple of months. What kind of questions do we have here? Number one, how are you feeling headed into Factions Day 11? Man. Honestly, Squa, like, I gotta say, like, after feeling, like, sick for the past, like, week, I feel great because I missed the chamber match. Probably got a little bit of ring rust. You know, got some ring rust. So I gotta sweat that off at Factions Day and an old school submission match. And I think how I generally feel about an old school submission, I mean, Ron Covey did make some very good points on his backstage interview. I think this is going to be a first for me. But I know in my heart that I'm going to somehow find a way to survive this and, you know, still have the MOF champion. And I think everything overall will be okay. I mean, it's going to be one hell of a match. Don't get me wrong. There's no question about that. And I feel as if, you know, the match is going to, like, the crowd is going to be, like, up here. Like, they're going to go crazy. So, yeah. And then, you know, I have main evented 2 Factions days already. This one's my third. So it's going to be pretty exciting. And I think the crowd is obviously going to be on my side. I mean, no questions asked. So yeah, Squa, what other questions do you have while I'm here for the 20 minutes? What would you say is your best MOF match so far? Oh, I have a really good one. And this one was back from 2025, if this even counts. So, if y'all can put it like onto the right side of my screen, the match with ATW versus Janite was absolutely crazy. It was one hell of a banger, and I think the way the match was like set was the reason why ATW versus Janite was just a really good match. Sorry, I'm still sick. But it was so it was a really good match. I obviously feel as if a lot of people have thought that ATW and Janite was basically like David versus Goliath. Like, Janite was little David, and he was on a quest to get back the KDA ownership, and that set the whole vibe up for David versus Goliath kind of vibe. And I feel like, you know, that is just kind of why I think ATW versus Janite is just a really cool match. Even like if you want to watch MOF today, it is like levels above, man. And this was before I really got into the MOF title reign. And I feel like this whole relationship with Janite has gotten like really complicated. It's really hard to explain. We're kind of like cool in real life. We're in like a real life Discord and whatever. If you want to take a look at that, ask him himself. I am not going to be a part of this. Anyways, what's some other questions you got, Squa? How is your relationship with Chris Bills? And how is it tied to MOF? Okay. So my relation with Chris Bills, so obviously Chris Bills is my real life cousin. Chris Bills is, he's phenomenal. He's definitely a great athlete. Um, he's around my size, somewhere around there. And I feel like MOF, really needs to give someone like him a chance because Chris Bills has got talent. He's got this persona that I don't think any other recruit has. And I think it would just be great if Chris Bills were to be integrated within, the whole storyline as far as that goes. And I feel like, everything, you know, sorry guys, I was saying, so what was I saying, Squaw? Oh yeah, I was saying about my relationship with Chris Bills. Um, Obviously, I think our end goal, like at one point, is maybe to, for him to help me win the tag team championships and have a title here and a title here. And what that would basically do is that would make me a Grand Slam champion. If y'all know what that means, it means winning a mid card title, winning a top tier title, like, the world title, and obviously winning some sort of tag team title as well, and an optional MXP title. And that's pretty much how you become a Grand Slam champion on MOF. Now, I've never held the MXP title, and I think, the whole thing is kind of optional now. But all you need really is just a mid-card title, a top-tier title, and a tag team title. I've already gotten both of those because, the KDA title is a mid-card title. And, obviously the MLF title, I'm on the top of the mountain, baby. So, yeah. So let me get to question number 4. Who would you say is your most brutal opponent so far? Oh, man, I really hate this question. Honestly, I feel like, I don't know. This is a tough one. If I had to really guess, like my most brutal, like modern opponent, it's gotta hands down be Jake Sika. Like, feature it on the right side of the screen. If you have seen like what Jake Sika has done to me at the Monster Rumble, it is crazy. He opened up my neck. Like I don't think any other wrestler honestly has done that on MOF besides maybe Sam. But Jake Sika, he's just on another level, man. He is seriously on another level when it comes to aggression and speed for his size. He's got the athleticism of like a wildcat. Like Jake Sika, as much as I hate him so much, he is I gotta admit, he is really good potential in the MLF business for sure. And I think Jake is gonna make it some way in his life. And this like brutal, aggressive persona that even I can't be able to replicate is, gonna go a long way. You're gonna want to be like a beast, you know? So yeah. And yeah. So Squaw, what other questions do you got for me? Oh yeah. I forgot I even had the paper. Number 5. How is your status with other brands, i.e. MOW, Vibe, etc.? So before I get to Vibe, let me talk about MOW. MOW has been great. I think what was really great about it is I was an outsider challenging the Gigas champion and winning the Gigas champion and having like a little bit of an MOW preview reign is what I would call it. Like, it was really cool, honestly, winning a mid card title on MOW. I feel like winning one of those titles is definitely gonna, cement my career for sure. The MOW Gigas title is no joke, an exotic title, and I did the unthinkable of holding two brands, and I think that was like the real highlight of MOW. And the fact that I basically led MOW into like a little glimpse of what it's like to be an MOF star, let alone CJ cashing in on the title. But it is what it is. And I really don't want to come to the Squa, and I've tried to ask you to stop asking this question. But how is my relationship or status with Vibe? Vibe, 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 vibe. Now, my relation with Vibe, well, it was good initially. I returned maybe like, when was it? Like early 2025. Everyone was happy to see me there. But then the manager had to kick me out, and because of some problem with this person that I've had issues with in the past, like in the way past. This was like before my MOF career. Um, but yeah, and then it led to a bunch of like meetings with the manager to try and maybe get me back in. And that was initially the place that I was going to cross brand and maybe meet some new connections there that I've never met on MOF or even MOW, honestly, let alone MOW being really good there. And yeah, so honestly, I think overall, like, after what has transpired, and obviously the managers trying to like prevent me from returning, and the way they managed the whole thing, it just really pisses me off. It really gets me like this, and I just don't see myself ever going back. I mean, I think the last time that I went back ever is going to be last year. I don't think I have any intentions of going back to Vibe. Honestly, I really love it on MOF. And I don't think I'm going to move unless I transfer to MOW. But otherwise, I think I'm going to stay here. And I am not going to put myself in a place like Vibe where, you know, there is potential conflict and potential for that. And I feel like, the whole scenario with that is just, just no bueno. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, Perhaps if the only way I would maybe return to that area is if I had, if not I had, sorry, is if either the management changes or they have a new manager. That is the only way I'm going back. Otherwise, I am staying away and the hell away from Vibe. Anyways, more questions here. Are you ever gonna win the tag team titles or tag team gold ever in your career? This brings me to the potential for maybe ATW and Chris Bills. I think a lot of people have been anticipating that, we bring, Chris Bills into more like a tag team setting. And I think it would be good for me too, because I've never really tagged before. I don't know if you know this, Squa, but I have never tagged in my career. I mean, the only time I really tagged was to fight off KDA. Otherwise, I've never tagged. Um, and, I think getting the opportunity to wrestle in a more tag team setting is definitely a little bit, it's different than like singles, but I think I can get used to it. I think I really can. And I'm sure Chris Bills would love to, tag with someone like me who's big and strong and is also the MLF champion, of course. But yeah, I think the crowd lately has been speculating. Even like people, famous fans like Ronnie, the MLF fan, has been rumoring about potential with me and Chris Bills, and I think honestly it might be possible. It definitely might be possible. I don't know when. I assume maybe sometime after Factions Day would probably be the best time to like, initiate this. And I feel like the crowd is going to go crazy with like having the Warrior and Chris Bills or whatever he decides to name himself in the fray. And I think the storyline is going to get a lot more intense and a lot more interesting if we implement more of like a tag team setting. uh and that's how I feel. So my conclusion with all this is obviously I feel like me versus Ron Colby, like it's gonna blow up. It's obviously the most anticipated match ever since the Monster Rumble, and genuinely I feel like this is gonna be a banger for sure. It's gonna remind me of how I felt with Janite last year, and I think it's gonna have a very similar vibe despite being a submission match. I think we're going to remember this match for like the rest of the whole year, and I think it's overall going to be great. And I think my takeaway here with like other brands is obviously right now I'm more focused on like a sole brand, obviously MOF, and being levels above and all that. And I think sticking to keeping the MOF title and defending it and proving that I am a fighting champion like this, that alone is gonna make other brands like MOW and Vibe and even other brands out there to change their mind and their whole thinking around me. And I think that's gonna really go a long way. I mean, the last time I had a defining reign was, when I was Realmix champion back in 2024 to early 2025. And that was a really defining reign. I held the title for 295 days. And, it's been one hell of a reign. And I think the MOF title reign is going to, exceed its expectations, hopefully. If I can surpass Ron Colby. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think we can wrap up here, Squa. I don't think there's any other questions that would be, asked. I think pretty much we've got everything, covered. So, Squa, it was nice interviewing with you. And, I hope to interview with you again in the future. And, eventually, maybe we could turn Renegade into like an actual roster one day. Just saying, Squaw. I think it would be a really good option. Anyways, I'm gonna go recover because I just came back from McKnight and I had to confront Ron Colby, and he's a psycho. Anyway, I gotta go. See you, Squaw. All right, it looks like ATW has made his statement very clear. He has made his statement very clear that, obviously, I think the key takeaways from what he said is he's definitely very prepared for Factions Day 11. And his third time main eventing Factions Day against Ron Colby is going to be one hell of a banger match. It is going to be one hell of a banger because the crowd is going to go crazy. They're obviously going to be on their feet. And, obviously, I do annoy him sometimes about Vibe. I could admit that. But I just wonder, why he's not returning. Why does he keep mentioning it? And it just makes me want to mention it, honestly. But, we could definitely maybe or maybe not see Vibe in the future. No, we will not, Squaw. Okay, maybe we will not. But, and then I think his relationship with Chris Bills is gotten, very personal. And I think, it's very, great. I think they're like true connections in real life. And I think they're going to be similar on MOF together. And I think the whole thing is going to be great. I think my take on this is, obviously ATW is a veteran on MOF. He knows what he's doing. He knows where to navigate and, when to strike. So yeah, we are very proud of him on how far he's come. And we hope that he gets to vent on here, in the future, like in the next few months, the next couple months, and we'll keep doing that. So, yes, so we're going to wrap it up, y'all. I know y'all really want to go. So we're going to wrap it up. Next week, we have Season 3, Episode 10 of Friday Night at Night, and we will be featuring Chris Bills and Jake Sika and his new family. So that's going to be very interesting. Now, I'll see y'all, but y'all really need to renegade. It's time to go now. Have a good day, everyone.